Support for Mountain Stage is provided by Bailey and Glasser and by the West Virginia Tourism Office. This is NPR.
This is WMRA Harrisonburg 90.7, WMRY Jose Charlottesville 103. WMRL Lexington 89.9, WMLU Farmville 91.3, Winchester 94.5, online at
Fine, cannot be combined with other offers. Additional fees may apply.
WMRL app.
This is Climate One, changing the conversation about energy, the economy.
Hey everybody, this is Stereo Police, and you are looking at my new side system right there. It is tuner based. The only source component I have is that tuner right there. And that's it. That tuner is feeding into the NAD preamp, which is feeding into the Akitica amp, which is driving the Forte 3s. Of course, there's my main system right there. Right now, instead of listening to my AS 1100 through the Cornwall 3s, I'm currently listening to the Yamaha AS301 integrated amplifier, driving the Klipsch RP 600s. Let's take that grill cover off. The 600s. But tonight I'm listening to my side system, my tuner-based system. And I have a few thoughts on that. Let me pop this on the tripod so I don't use people dizzy. Hang on just a sec. Cheers. It is Sunday night. I don't even know the date, but I believe yesterday was the 9th. Had a nice weekend this weekend. I visited a high-end shop in Richmond, Virginia, where I picked up a couple of new pieces, used new pieces right there. I picked up that beautiful, beautiful tuner on top, Phase Linear 5000. And I picked up that NAD preamplifier right there. So as I could drive my Akitica amp that I built. And so I could complete the system using the Forte 3s as my speakers. More on that in a minute. You know, there once was a time. Well, let me ask you a question first. And for those of you inclined to answer, I'm always curious. I'm always curious to I don't ask enough questions. A lot of times I make these videos and I provide opinions and reviews, but oftentimes when I'm reading the comments, I often get more out of just listening to other people's opinions on things. And I probably ought to ask more questions. I probably ought to ask more of other people's opinions on things, which I'm going to do right now. And I'm just wondering, this is the first of many videos I'm going to make about asking questions of of my subscribers and viewers. But I'm just wondering, do you have a relationship with a high-end FM tuner? And I say high-end because I believe we all of us who drive, have a relationship with an FM tuner. It's in our cars. And I believe the vast majority of us, when we get into our cars, unless you're a person that subscribes to satellite radio, which I used to a long time ago, and I found it to be a giant ripoff. The vast majority of us will, if we're driving somewhere, will tune into FM in our cars. Occasionally I'll Bluetooth YouTube, over to my radio and listen to something, but a lot of times I just don't feel like it. I'll just turn on some FM station or scan through the FM dial and listen to this. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, do you have a relationship with a high-end FM tuner in a system you have, in your house? Because I suspect I'm almost alone these days. I think the day of the high-end FM tuner is long since past. I believe I'm a dinosaur in that respect. I'm not even sure who makes a good high-end FM tuner anymore. Magnum Dynalab, I believe, used to be a company that made some good ones. I'm not sure they're still around. I haven't searched them lately. But I'm just wondering if I'm alone. And let me just say this. Here's why I put together this system you're looking at right here. This tuner-based system where the sole source of audio is the tuner. Number one, just a little bit of history. Before the internet, and I'm an older guy, I'm a child of my formative years were the late 70s, early 80s. I'm a child of the early 80s. I was a teenager in the early 80s. You ever watch these 80s movies? That was me. Although a lot of the movies like Hot Tub Time Machine are just a parody of the 80s, whereas some movies are pretty serious about getting it right, like Everybody Wants Some. Even though that was a comedy, they tried to get it right. Respect. That's a good movie to watch. The hell was I talking about? Okay, so before the internet, before cell phones, but before the internet, our sources of information were printed publications, word of mouth, radio, and television. What am I missing? I might be missing something, but that's where information came from. And with respect to music, which is what this hobby's all about, although I admittedly am a bit of an equipment file, but it's still all about music. Without music, there's no need for the equipment. But with respect to music, where did we go to hear new music, to be exposed to new things, to find out what we were interested in, what we liked? And that was a tuner. That was radio. That was analog over-the-air radio. And that was it. There was no internet. It was radio, and also it was, word of mouth. Friends playing music, but where do they hear the music? So it was kind of oral tradition, so to speak, and over-the-air radio. And so a tuner, back in the day, back in the 70s and my formative years, 70s and 80s, was a a primary source component of an audio system. The best quality you were going to get, the best quality source component you were going to get was from your from your turntable. It was a record. And the second best quality you were going to get is from a tuner. Cassettes, of course, were horrible. They were just there as a medium to record collections, to record a mix for your car. If you wanted to record a high-end mix for your house, then you'd better get a reel-to-reel. That was far better than a cassette. But they were very expensive. So, records and your tuner. And of course your tuner is what exposed you to new things. It's what kept you from being musically inbred. Nowadays, of course, you have the internet. You have internet radio stations. But anyway, I still believe that a tuner has a place in high-end audio today. An analog FM tuner. I still believe there are some fantastic stations, both commercial as well as public, that exist in major metropolitan areas. And I'm kind of even though I'm out in the country, I get stations from Richmond, Virginia. I get stations from Harrisonburg, Roanoke, Charlottesville, Northern Virginia. Very good stations that both commercial and public that expose you to lots of music that you would otherwise never have been exposed to. And while you have no control over the quality of the source material, it's still good enough quality. And whether you listen to it as background music or just sit down like I'm doing tonight with a glass of wine, lights down, chilling out, listening to some tunes, listening to someone else spin the records, listening to some music you've never heard of before, I still want to hear that through a high-end system. And it all starts with a good high-end FM tuner. And occasionally I'll hear something that's just fantastic, just blows my mind. And I want to know who does it. And you have to wait. Hope the DJ tells you. With a tuner like this one up here, there's no display. There's no digital readout. Sometimes it just goes by the wayside and I may never find out. And that's a beautiful thing, in a way. But it's just part of the overall audio experience. And so I'm just thinking out loud here, but I'm just wondering. I put together this system, a tuner-based system, and I'm wondering if I'm kind of a dinosaur in this respect. Do any of you guys have a good high-end FM tuner? Do you listen to it? Do you use it as a primary source? Do you find there's merit to having an FM tuner these days, so to speak? These days. I do. And I'm glad I have this system right here. I've been listening to it for hours on end tonight. I'm enjoying it. I purchased, again, I think I mentioned this, I purchased that NAD preamp right there, and this phase linear tuner. Over the weekend, I went to Richmond, Virginia, visiting some family, and I visited a high-end shop there, a shop that also sells used equipment. And they had these there, and I jumped at the opportunity. The price was right. And I came back and put this system together, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. It's a secondary system. It's a side system. When I'm exercising, I play it. If I'm in my other room working in my workshop behind me, I play it. Sometimes it's just nice to have a tuner going. And I'll tell you what, that thing picks up stations I never knew I could pick up. I had where that white Zenith radio is there, that 1951 8 vacuum tube radio that I'll tell you about later. I had a Yamaha tuner there. It's the one right there. And it just wasn't getting the job done. I liked the looks of it, but it just wasn't picking the stations up. So I knew I needed something better, and I found it. And boy, that thing is a winner. And it's a beauty too. It's a beast, but it's a beauty. Alright, so rather than drone on all night, let me leave you with these final thoughts. Again, the question I have, am I alone, or is a tuner still something that has a place in high-end audio in the year of 2019? An FM, analog FM tuner. Or am I alone? And the last thing I'll say is, I also realized that the last video I made was an introduction to a review of the Yamaha, that black preamp you see there on top, the Yamaha AS301. I'm still working on it, bear with me. I've been listening to it virtually every day for the last more than a week, and I want to give it, I want it to set in. I want to forget it's even there. I want to listen to it as my primary system. I want to learn its idiosyncrasies. I want to learn its flaws. I want to see if anything's fatiguing about it. I want to have an informed opinion before I actually review it, give you my opinion. So I'm still working on it, and I'm going to be getting around to that real soon. But in the meantime, I'll be enjoying my tuner tonight. Oh, take this off the tripod. I'm sitting here in my little audio dungeon. Isn't it cool just to sit here? You know, I've been around family and people all weekend. I just like being alone at the end of the weekend. And it's just kind of cool to sit here, just having a little room to yourself. It's just a little space right here. It's not big. Just surrounded by equipment. You know, for an equipment file like me, this is so cool. Just surrounded by equipment. And listening to whatever you want to. And in this case tonight, it's a tuner. It's a tuner through an NAD preamp, through an Akitica amp that I built through Forte 3s, and it sounds good. Anyway, enough of that. I'll see you all real soon. I'll finish up my review of the Yamaha AS301, and I'll get around to my review of the Klipsch RP 600s. Still working on that. I haven't forgotten about it. Anyway, just wanted to chime in and say hi. Ciao, y'all. Bye-bye.